Folks, welcome into sportsbookreview.com. It is Monday, and it's time to talk some National League football on our opening lines edition. And don't be confused here. Usually there's two. We times that by two, which means there are four here, and we are ready to rock and roll on a Monday. There is a Monday night football game, but first, let's welcome in the panel here. Of course, I'm Donnie RightSide along with Kyle Purviance, and take a look at this. The Sportsbook Consigliere, Dave Sharapan and Kevin Walsh. We got the round table formed here on a Monday. First things first here, 88,500 subscribers here to our YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for doing that. If you haven't done that yet, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bells on, because we go live and talk NFL football. You'll be able to come say hello in the chat box. And by the way, love the support. Last week, the opening line show, over 10,000 views on the week, 9,000 views on our Thursday show. We had a great time yesterday coming live for our NFL kickoff show as well. But it's time to get the party started. There's a guy sitting here right to my right here. Take a look at this guy. He's not supposed to be here Monday. Showed up for work. That's how you do it, Kyle, no matter how you got here.
That's right. I'm dedicated doing this show from the airplane. They allowed me to have some internet there, so don't adjust your sets. But no, I'm happy to be here, and I love doubling the knowledge. This is going to be a lot of fun on this show. And look, the universe unfolds as it should, so here my stupid ass is sitting here on a Monday, and I appreciate these gentlemen joining in. They were trying to replace me, and I just couldn't let it happen, so here I am Monday. Let's get after it.
Yeah, one might think here, Kyle, that it's hard enough listening to you, so I got to bring in two more people just to drown you out. And welcome in Dave Sharapan, making a little bit of look. If you guys don't know who Dave is, great follow here on Twitter, but also in the bookmaking business for over 2 decades. This is what we do here on the opening lines. We talk about opening lines and have some fun. Dave, welcome into the show here.
Donnie, thanks for having me. Kyle, good to see you. Heard you weren't going to be here, so this is like a bonus. It's all good. And then, anytime you get to see K-Dub, it's great. So, this is going to be fun. Sit back, settle in. Who knows where we're going to go? I know we're not going to Vegas, but I am in Vegas. So we can talk about anything you want regarding that as well.
Certainly great stuff here. And also K-Dub, as known as Kevin Walsh here. Somebody's got to be a heel on the show. He might as well be the heel today, but welcome in, Kevin. We're going to talk some NFL action today.
No, listen, I just, here to be the voice of reason. Shohei Ohtani, not very good at baseball, football show. Josh Allen, not very good at football. These are the things that have been bestowed upon me. Those are the things that apparently, those are my takes. I have to ride them while I can. I'm pumped to be here. Also, just in case Donnie thought he could get away from me, I chased him down over here now, too.
No, exactly. That's the way we do it. So, hey, the less words out of my mouth, the better over the next hour. But let's have some fun on the show today. Also, keep in mind, the Pick Six contest at sportsbookreview.com, $50,000 up for grabs during the football season, $1,600 per week in prizes. Fantastic stuff. And as I said, these are not, I can't pick any team totals in this. So I'm behind the 8 ball already. But I am 3-3. As long as I'm 500 or better, I will be in a good mood. Kyle, by the way, how did you go in the Pick Six contest last week?
Well, I need this win tonight by Baltimore to get to 3-3. So I'm hoping for that 3-3 start. So I need these damn Ravens tonight. Let's go.
All right. Speaking about the game tonight, we do have an NFL game live at the Spaceship out there in Las Vegas tonight. If we're taking a look at some of the odds on the game tonight, opening numbers between 5s and 4s. Not a lot of good information coming out for Baltimore over the past couple weeks. It is a triage unit here on the offensive side of the football, particularly in the backfield for the Baltimore Ravens. Looking across, Pinnacle offshore, -3.5, -103. FanDuel here in New Jersey, 3.5. There are 4s and 3.5s depending on where you shop, and also a total of 50.5. Kyle, going to start with you first in this football game. I think we know what we can get out of Baltimore each and every opening day. Seems like they blast teams. They are more prepared than any other football team, it seems. Why? Because they take the preseason seriously, and whenever there's a scoreboard ready to go, they will be into it. Now, you're going to have fans in the stands in Las Vegas. You're going to have a true home field advantage for the Raiders. Down some players in the backfield. Is Lamar Jackson enough for the Baltimore Ravens tonight?
Well, I think he is. And, it's kind of interesting. If you look at the stat, you had 5 outright road underdogs win in week 1. It's the most in the last 35 years. So we sort of thought, hey, this home crowd's going to affect things. We can start giving those 3 points to those home teams. And the universe said, hey, not so fast, you guys. You had 8 outright dogs win, 5 on the road, as I mentioned. But I still got to have I got to go Baltimore here. That Raiders defense, for me, when I projected all of the defenses this year, I had them in the bottom 5. They allowed the 4th most fantasy points to running backs last year, the 5th most to quarterbacks. Their secondary, Trayvon Mullen, et cetera, is not very good, and they did nothing to address it. Of course, their number 1 receiver last year, Nelson, outside of Darren Waller, of course, gone for the year. So Look, although it's a little scary and the news has not been great, of course, Marcus Peters being out in that secondary is a big, big hole. They're going to replace him with Anthony Averett. Now, he's been with the team 3 years. All the coaches say, Wink Martindale said he's our third best corner on the team. I find that a little bit hard to believe. I would think it would be Jimmy Smith. Of course, Marlon Humphrey's fantastic. I still think Baltimore is going to be aggressive. It's going to be hard for the Raiders to run the football on this defense. I think Baltimore comes out and beats the brakes off him. As long as you have Lamar Jackson, that running game is going to work. I don't care who's in the backfield. I know it's going to be Tyson. And, maybe you see Latavius Murray, who they just signed, Devontae Freeman as well. But I still like Baltimore here, and I like that line is moving now. Minus 3.5 is a nice number to have. I have them at 4.5. I still think they get it done tonight. So I'm still leaning Baltimore. Part of that's my heart, but a lot of that's my head. I just don't see how the Raiders stop this offense no matter who's running the ball.
Yeah, we'll see how it affects them there. And again, you're talking about a dome environment. The Raider fans are going to be loud, but also taking a look at Lamar Jackson. What he does well is running. And I know we were doing some prop bets a little bit earlier today, looking at Lamar Jackson's prop at around 70 yards rushing. He actually leads the Baltimore Ravens in prop rushing totals for tonight, Dave. As we take a look at the game, I think it comes down to, which basically in football comes down to a lot, the game within the game in the trenches here. I look at the offensive line here for the Oakland. I'm going to say Oakland repeatedly throughout the season again. I always do it. Las Vegas Raiders here up front on the offensive line, a little bit weak. We know how physical the Baltimore Ravens can be up front. Dave, looking at these two teams when they match up, I know we can't take things out. I'm not a big trend guy. Like, hey, what did they do 4 years ago? But each and every year, this team seems to rise up on opening day and blow a football team out. And we're not talking about going on the road playing the Kansas City Chiefs or one of the elevated teams like the Los Angeles Rams. You're talking about the Raiders here who can be susceptible. What are we looking at tonight from your perspective here?
So, I mean, this thing opened up. We've talked about this on the shows and other stuff. The week one opening lines have been up for a long time. I mean, these things came up in May and have been sitting there, and everybody's been kind of poking at this and grabbing the Raiders +5, +4.5, +4, down to 3.5. And it's a home dog that a lot of people are playing. I'm sitting there going, listen, I know the news is bad, and I don't know who's starting a running back for the Ravens tonight. I don't know if they know. But they've been working on it and practicing in it. It's not like it's happened during the game. So they're game planning for it. I think the Raiders defense is the worst unit of all the units, whether it's offense, defense, and Raiders. So I'm got a short favorite with a team that wins their opening games and has done so for years. And I still think I got the better coach too with the better quarterback. I don't know. I see value on the Ravens side. The total's interesting to me because with the Raiders being like 12-4 to the over last year, I don't think much changed. So I'm leaning over. I'm watching the number come down. I think by kick, you may be able to get a 50. I mean, it bounced there. It came back. I think it may go back that way. So I don't know. It feels like the Ravens team total would be this thing like, you've kind of turned me on to these team totals. I don't want to have to rely on the Raiders to score to get the game over. I still think that's the way I'm leaning, but I like the Ravens team total over. How do they not get there?
Yeah, it makes sense here because the Raiders' defensive whole, and when I take a look and try to break it down, Dave, also, and I'll bring Kevin into the conversation here, I think the way you can really attack the Raiders is in the secondary, but that's not necessarily what the Ravens are looking to do. I could say if we can get Lamar Jackson over 225 passing tonight, they probably have a pretty good effort on offense because they're still going to lean on that ground game. So 225 through the air, probably about 75 to 80 yards at least out of Lamar Jackson. Then you leave it up to the running backs. I do think, if we're looking again from the trench perspective here, I give the added advantage to the Baltimore Ravens. But K-Dub, looking at the game itself here, heading into it, Lamar Jackson's going to be able to do what he wants. He's a great regular season quarterback. But also when you're taking a look, this isn't an elite defense with a ton of stoppers here that are you going to put a spy? Well, who's going to be your spy tonight? There's not an electric passer. There's no Myles Garrett on this football team here. From an offensive perspective, I do think Baltimore still is going to be able to move the football. I don't know where the overall yardage comes from, whether it's Watkins, whether it's Brown, whether it's Andrews on offense. Who do you think is going to be a key contributor tonight for the Ravens outside of Lamar Jackson? And also your thoughts on the game as well.
Yeah, I think as far as the Ravens offense goes, there's so many different Lamar props that jump out. With the running backs there, something that Donnie, you and I have talked about is sometimes give me the low man, if it's going to be Lev Bell, if it's going to be Lat Murray. Do I really want to bet Williams at 60.5? Is he going to be the guy 100% of the way? Lev Bell, I mean, listen, I know he's lost a lot of explosiveness. Could he rip off a 20-yard rush and you're just through the door on one play? He could, because this Raiders defense is not great. Relax over there with that Steelers jersey. Now, the other thing, though, as far as the numbers when it comes with these Ravens and the Week 1 numbers, they're 10-3 against the spread with John Harbaugh in Week 1. And typically when trends like this become public knowledge, like, that's why they're going to become 10-4, except he hasn't lost a preseason game in like 100 years. Like, how did they not lose a preseason game? Like, it was a perfect storm because you had people betting preseason football. What a win. You idiots are going to bet preseason football. You're going to lose because you shouldn't bet it. Nope, Ravens just kept covering. Everybody made money, free money, free money. I can't go against the Ravens, right? But the numbers looked like it's value there. On the Raiders, they're home. It's Vegas. It's going to be rocking. I think it's a tough spread game. I think it's going to be a tremendous live betting kind of game here. I think Lamar's the guy that you're probably going to look to back in a lot of these prop markets for a reason. Like, one thing that I love FanDuel does, there's like 3 quarterbacks in the NFL who gets this prop, and Lamar's one of them. The passing plus rushing. That way, however he does it, I can get involved. I think that kind of, 285.5, something along that range, I think for Lamar makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, take a look at some of the sports books out here because you guys know, like, I like to try to get under certain key numbers here. It's very expensive if you want the Ravens. My 3 plays I had yesterday, 24 points, which actually was a push, 23 points and 22 points. Those were winners. Those are the ranges I like to stay in. So if we're going to take a look here and wrap this game up and go down the list with some plays, over 26 at minus 150. I don't know if I want to be invested. Do I think the Ravens can get to that total? Absolutely. But I usually like to look to that strike point to try to stay around that 24 range. And if you go to some of these books that will allow you the alt lines here, 24.5 at minus 170, 23 minus 260. I mean, come on now. You might as well just take the higher number here and try to roll and live with it. But if we're looking at some prop bets on this game, I do think Williams will be the lead back tonight. I do think they will have success on the ground. I like the over 60.5 yards, which is available this morning. And also looking from the same perspective, you're going to have to pass the football for the Baltimore Ravens side for myself. That's why I get in Mark Andrews over 58.5 yards. I think he can score a touchdown, which I believe FanDuel has first touchdown score of the game. They give you both tight ends on either side. Waller and also Andrews boosted up to 6-1. If either one of those guys scores the first touchdown of the game, I think that's a pretty live look. But for me, I'll pass on the team total here. But I do like, if I'm looking to read the game, 50.5 seems like about the right number here. I'm going to go under in that, just being opening day. I don't know how explosive the Ravens will be, but I think they can control the clock. That's the way I'm looking on this game. Kyle, we'll go with you first here. What are you taking a look at tonight?
Yeah, I'm just going to stick to the side, and I'm with you. I love team totals. You know that. I was kind of laying back on those in Week 1. I wanted to see what some of these offenses and defenses look like. One thing I do know, the Raiders didn't do anything to address this defense, and I mentioned all the numbers. This is a bad defense. 29th against running backs last year, 26th against quarterbacks, 22nd against wide receivers, 17th against tight ends, and I love that look for either tight end to get the first touchdown. When they're in the red zone, it's clear Mark Andrews is Lamar Jackson's number 1 target. You can get an anytime touchdown for him at plus money right now, at plus 110. I love that look tonight. I expect Mark Andrews to get into the end zone. And then you talk about the rushing props. Like, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson over 74.5 or Tyson Williams over 62.5. One thing I do know, we don't know what this running back situation is going to look like, right? This is new for them, new for us, new for everyone. Will someone get hot? Will someone get cold? Will he fumble on his first carry? The one thing I do know, Lamar Jackson is going to be their main running back out of the quarterback position. I expect him to get well over that 74.5 yards. It's juiced up. It's minus 145. You don't love those on props. You like to have a little bit better of a number here, but I expect Lamar Jackson to get there. And one more prop I like for the Raiders side. So we mentioned Marcus Peters is out. Marcus Peters was going to see a lot of Henry Ruggs on the outside. Now you have Anthony Everett. The Raiders, I anticipate they're going to be behind in this game. It's going to be hard for them to run. Remember, they got rid of everyone on their offensive line. So that offensive line may be really, really shaky tonight. They're going to have to throw. Henry Ruggs over 40.5 receiving yards. I like that number. He's going to be looking at Anthony Everett. It's minus 125. Now, he should be the number 1 guy outside of Waller with Nelson Aguilar gone. Henry Ruggs is a big play guy. If this young kid who hasn't played a ton, this is going to be his most significant playing time in his career, makes one mistake, Henry Ruggs could get that on one play. I like Henry Ruggs over 40.5 yards, minus 125.
Yeah, I believe one of his catch props there, Kyle, was in the high 30s here. One reception to get over that, which, or excuse me, for his game. What I'm saying is that one catch, he might be able to get that all in one fell swoop. We'll see how it plays into it. Also, keep in mind, Jacobs, a little bit of question marks here coming into this football game, whether or not he's going to go. The Raiders also have a 100% vaccination rate here as a team, but it's not related to COVID, but just feeling under the weather. So something to keep an eye on. They expect him to play as the reports are coming out, but something, once those final lineups are set here with the inactive reports, you'll know that by there. Dave, taking a look at this football game here overall, some bets that you might be looking at, props. What do you got going on here tonight?
So, I'm leaning aside for the Ravens and wearing all the Steelers stuff. It hurts a little bit to say, but it's true. I don't want any part of the Raiders side. I think total, I'm leaning over. I mean, you made a lot of sense with the case under, but I still think it's more of a scoring type game where, like we saw it Thursday night, where it's kind of trading scores for a little while until one of the teams figures it out. And when I say over, I'm an under guy. Probably lock up your under bet, Donnie. You can probably, double unit this thing. It'll probably be a 17-10 final because I never really say over, so I do. I like Waller to score anytime. I mean, and if you want to take a shot, first first TD, because you get the dog prices on the dog team, the prices are better because. Right. For whatever reason, you assume that the favorite wins the coin toss or scores first. I've often asked that question in the book. Why does it matter who's going to get the ball first as far as these prices? Waller's got as much chance to score, more likely to score than almost anyone else on the field. And you can get a first score touchdown prop, something fun to do. It's like 10-1, 8-1, a good price. So that touchdown prop with both tight ends, you pique my interest with that because that's who they look for. I think both quarterbacks look for their tight ends as the primary target. And all you can ask when you're looking for a receiving touchdown is to be the primary target. So that's a good price too.
About here, taking a look at some, alt props here, which I know Kevin Walsh is a big fan of. Glenn Moore says Mark Andrews over 44.5 yards and Lamar Jackson over 59.5 rushing yards at a plus 160 price. Take a look tonight, as Kevin will say repeatedly day in and day out, the NFL has figured out Lamar Jackson. Did I get that right? Did I get it right?
No, not at all. Not one bit. They haven't figured him out at all. One of my favorite myths in the entire league is this idea that they figured Lamar Jackson out. It's outrageous. And one of my other favorite things is that he's so constantly disrespected in the touchdown passing market. There is no team like the Ravens where you can get a team total that's 28, 27 with an elite quarterback and the touchdown passes is 1.5. This morning it was plus money. I see it right now at minus 106. He's done it in 18 of his 30 games over the last 2 seasons. He has played 2 week 1 games combined for 8 week 1 touchdown passes. He's going to throw touchdown passes. This is the thing. They don't all have to be bombs to Hollywood Brown. They can be, but he throws touchdowns to Mark Andrews on the 3-yard line. They run those little RPO plays where he's scrambling and finds a wide open fullback that you've never heard of. I really like the Lamar Jackson over 1.5. Russell Wilson's number in this same market last week was like minus 200. Ryan Tannehill's was minus 170. I got Lamar Jackson checking in here at minus 106. I love that. I also even think a first half team total for the Ravens over 13.5 is minus 116. Now that bet feels too easy, so I'm sure they'll absolutely finish bang on 13 with a couple of Justin Tucker field goals there. But I think that because nobody knows how to stop Lamar Jackson, especially early, them scoring fast and quick in the opening half here wouldn't surprise me one bit. 2 touchdowns feels more than doable in that first half.
All right, Monday Night Football will be underway in just a few hours here outside the Strip in Las Vegas at the Spaceship here. We'll see how it turns out there, but an interesting game nonetheless. Now, as you know, guys, this show is called NFL Opening Lines here. We're going to talk some opening lines on Thursday Night Football, and we do have some key injury information. Looks like Fitzpatrick's going to be out multiple weeks here, maybe even the season. Got a little bit of good news here on the MRI with the hip. There's no break in it, but you're talking about an older quarterback with hip injuries. He misses 5 or 6 weeks. What's the point, basically, of him even coming back, one would think? But don't sleep on Taylor Heineke. One of the few games that I got through today watching repeat was on the Chargers game versus the Washington football team. He wasn't bad. They got a couple bad breaks in that game. Forget about the Chargers going 14 of 19 on 3rd down, which is outrageous. They played well, but the football team will be home against the Giants. Now, also take a look at this. The opening lines, as we like to say, 4.5s, offshore Pinnacle, 3 here in New Jersey. We're seeing 3.5s primarily across the board right now. Let me tell you something. This game drops to 3. I'm going to be all over the football team here, Kyle.
Yeah, and I agree. And look, Taylor Heineke also played very good. If you remember, the closest the Bucs really came to losing last year in the playoffs was the wild card game with Taylor Heineke at quarterback. Now it stinks. And look, if Ryan Fitzpatrick's older quarterback, what the hell are we? Are we fossils? Like what?
Yeah,
it's not good.
We are.
It's not good.
That's why we're getting pushed out here on the channel.
This old fighter, this old player, he stinks. And I was like, wait a second, that guy's younger than I am. I don't like that very much at all anymore. And I'm very sensitive the last couple of days. So let's call him a seasoned quarterback. But look, the Giants are going to face a similar defense to what they just saw this last weekend in Denver. And you saw they had no answers. You're getting a very limited Saquon Barkley. You have an outstanding Washington secondary. They did, there were some holes. Keenan Allen got open, but that offense for the Chargers was exponentially more talented, especially at the quarterback position, than this Giants team is. I know they got Galladay and Slayton, and Shepard looked really good. He had some big plays in that game. But this Washington defense is for real. That front seven is for real. They're going to have a really hard time running the football again. So do you want to be holding the bag in a game where you have to rely on Daniel Jones to throw you to victory? Not in any universe I live in. That's certainly not going to happen. So I would love it if it got to 3, of course. But right now, as we sit, I still got to lean Washington. Taylor Heineke is not Alex Smith. He is not an incapable quarterback. And quite frankly, I don't know if I wouldn't take him over Daniel Jones if I had the choice. So I will. I'll take the Giants. I'll take Washington here early in the week.
Yeah, raising the hand over here, Kyle, as he's going through the entire cap here. So we'll go over one more game before we get out of here today. No, just joking there. But by the way, Dave, setting the lines on these Thursday night football games, my style has always been I'm going to find a way to take the home team or no team in this instance. Now, also, the line opens up here. Giants were horrendous. You have a quarterback issue with Washington. Talk about some of the advantages here that you might have with capping this game or even taking a look at what the opening line should be, because there are a lot of unknowns in this game and also overreactions. Oh, my God. Trust me, the Giants aren't as bad as we think they are, and Washington will be okay without their quarterback. But we just don't know it yet. We just don't know, Dave.
And I don't think bettors know. I think they just take the number, right? Like you put up 4.5 in anticipation of the Giants look really bad, and instead you get the bet on the Giants. Okay, that's fine. I'm intrigued with the total, Donnie. 41 is the total pretty much across the board. That's low, but the Giants went under that total. So did the Washington football team. So that's a good number. It's just hard in today's NFL, especially the primetime games that we watch a lot of. These games are flying over. I think you're going to see a totally different style of game. As far as the side, I'm leaning. I thought the Giants would be better. My reaction would be to go on the team that looked worse. That's just a book kind of mentality. We're going to need the Giants. That's fine. We're okay with it. So that's the only opener thought right now until I know. I'm okay with Heineke being Washington football team quarterback. I was surprised he wasn't the starter when they signed Fitzpatrick to be the starter. He should have been the backup.
Good athletic ability there. Certainly going to help him out. And again, he is going to take the majority of the snaps here for this week, trying to set him up as being the starter. I think the Washington football team is the better football team here, Kevin. But taking a look, as Dave said, that's a low over-under again, once again at 41. But also, let's keep in mind, that game that they just played, a meaningless touchdown on the last play of the game got them in the double digits. The Giants were horrendous all the way through. What are some looks here real quick here on that opening line and what you think about the total as well?
Yeah, we're looking at the Giants because I don't like the Washington football team, and they're not very good. Their defense is simply the most overrated unit in all of football. They gave up 424 yards of offense last week because they played a good quarterback. Every time they play a good quarterback, they struggle. Sorry, Nick Mullins isn't on the slate. Sorry, injured Joe Burrow backup Brandon Allen isn't on the slate. Sorry, you're not getting the disaster Eagles benching their quarterback, and you were losing again to another young quarterback in Jalen Hurts. But you might say, well, at least it's Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, the only team he knows how to beat, the Washington football team. 4-0 in his career. I'm playing the Giants. I don't care. Washington thinks they're overrated.
All right, let's move to the Sunday afternoon ball games here. Saints and the Panthers here opened up at 3. Now you're seeing some 3.5s across the board. Who's not going to like what the New Orleans effort did against the Green Bay Packers here? Now lining up against Carolina, who had a solid football game. Darnold played well in there, and they just put it on cruise control in the fourth quarter, let the Jets creep back into that football game. Also, one thing I did learn watching that, I didn't know that there was turf now in Carolina as opposed to grass. So we'll see if that even is an extra explosive McCaffrey out of the backfield. Kyle, looking at this game, you're opening up at 3. Doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And if it closes higher than 3, that will not surprise me either.
Yeah, it feels like this line's going to move, right? I mean, after people really soak in what the Saints, and it's scary here. You don't want to overreact to what we saw. We saw a lethargic Packers team. Aaron Rodgers, historically, even though this wasn't a true home game for New Orleans, has been about 500 in his career on the road. And then, obviously exponentially better at home. But again, this is Sam Darnold and Carolina. I didn't expect the Saints defense to look as good. After some of the holes in the secondary, we didn't know who that second corner was going to be. And they showed up and they looked really, really good. Obviously, Jameis held down the turnovers, 5 touchdowns, hardly threw for any yards. The problem for Carolina is they just don't have the defensive players to shut down a competent offense. Now, you're not going to make a ton of money in the NFL betting road favorites every single week here. But if this number stays low, I like New Orleans early. It's tough not to love what you see. But again, and I can't put a lot of weight in Carolina beating the Jets. The Jets look terrible. Let's just call it what it is. Zach Wilson looked better in the second half a little bit. But the Jets are a bad football team. They're years away from actually competing, so it's hard to put a lot of stock into that. I'm not holding the bag betting Sam Darnold in any situation, especially against a Sean Payton coach team. I expect the Saints to get it done here. And that total is kind of standing up. This is a low total here again, too, at 44. The Saints can put up points against this team. You just need a couple of touchdowns here out of Carolina, and you can hit that number. So I'd slightly lean that 44.5 to the over. But I do like the Saints here early in the week, and I expect this line to move up.
I think it does well. Dave, quickly on this game also, 47, obviously we opened up at 47.5 at FanDuel, down to 44.5. But this is one of those being in the book, right? You get people walking up the week like, you saw New Orleans last week. This is a steal, -3. Sign me up all day here, Dave.
Absolutely. Who's going to bet Carolina? If they see any of that game, Carolina and the Jets, there's no one looking to take Carolina. And you don't have to give away 4.5, 5.5. Although that's probably where this is going to go, right? I mean, this isn't coming back to 3. You set the floor kind of at 3.5 and watch it climb. Now, the books are going to need Carolina, but the books are going to need Carolina a lot this season. It's going to be a recurring theme. I like the total. The first lean for me, again, is under. But I think what you saw with Jameis is that, it's going to be okay. Saints backers, Saints people, Saints futures, you're in good hands. When Sean Payton calling the plays, you don't ask him to do too much. 5 touchdowns. They threw for 143 yards, apparently. That's the lowest total the lowest total of yards in a game where you do that many touchdowns. It's pretty impressive. We'll see what happens with the total. I think it's going to come down another half point or 2, and that's where we're going to jump in on the over.
Sam Darnold. We'll see if he can get another job done here for the Carolina Panthers at home. And also keep in mind, essentially, there's supposed to be a home game last week for the Saints. So back-to-back road games, you always know how those like to flow, but also overreactions here. I can't imagine, KW, watching this football game. What's not to like about the Saints? They played some kick-ass defense, controlled the entire game, blew out one of the NFC favorites here. There's only one way to go up, or there's only one way to go down here week 2.
The problem is everything about the nature of gambling goes, I'll take the Panthers. It'll go to 3.5. I'll be the smartest guy in the room. And now you've bet on Sam Darnold, and your Sunday's ruined because you've bet on Sam Darnold. That's the reason the total keeps dropping, right?
Yeah.
If you really want to bet the Panthers, maybe you do that plus money first half situation and hope that the Saints are we're the greatest team in the history of football, and they don't show up for the first half kind of deal here. I actually think the total dropping 3 points that you mentioned, Donnie, is even more fascinating kind of than that number, because how do you not think that the Saints are going to be able to kind of move the football at will against Carolina here? This game's just going to land 23-20 either direction. Fascinating game.
300 people watching you live in the chat box. If you don't know who you're looking at here, of course, Donnie RightSide along with Kyle Purviance and special guest Dave Sharapan and the Kevin Walsh. Let's keep moving forward. Houston and Cleveland, Tyrod Taylor and Baker Mayfield. That's one. Cleveland let one slip away. They should have won that football game, but maybe the biggest surprise of the week, not from this guy, the Houston Texans handled their business over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, looking at this game, how about this opening number all short, 11.5, has now moved to 12.5 at Pinnacle. 13s here in New Jersey at FanDuel, back to 12.5. So it looks like 12.5 is primarily across the board. Some 12s showing up as well. Over under in this one, 46s to 48s, depending on where you're shopping at, Kyle. Is it too much too soon for Houston? Are they actually a really good football team? Or does Cleveland buckle down and hammer this squad on the road here?
Yeah, I mean, this is tough. Look, I just don't bet double-digit spreads unless I can make an argument for the other team to win the game or make it close. Look, I know Houston looked good yesterday, but Urban Meyer proved he is not ready to be a pro football head coach. His game plan was absolutely atrocious. That team was completely unprepared. If you're a Jacksonville fan, you're hoping this is a one-and-done Nick Saban situation because he's just not ready for pro football. Urban Meyer might be the lowest IQ football coach in the league now, surpassing Mike McCarthy. So now we've got Urban Meyer dumber than Mike McCarthy, which is absolutely insane, right? Because I never thought there would ever be a football mind worse than Mike McCarthy. And here we go. Urban Meyer looked absolutely dry. Look, Urban, just because you had Bible study with Carlos Hyde in college doesn't mean he should be on the field more than James Robinson. I don't know what the hell is going through your head, but you're an absolute moron. And I thought that team looked abysmal and dreadful. So it's hard for me to take a lot away from what Houston did to them. Do I think Cleveland is talented, is 2 touchdowns more talented than Jacksonville or than Houston? Absolutely. That crowd is going to be riled up. It's the first time in a couple of years where you're going to have home fans at the dog pound. But for me, I would lean first half, 12.5 for the game. Look, it's just not something I do. It's not a successful way to bet, but I don't mind the 6.5 in the first half. I do think Cleveland comes out, they're pissed off. They run up and down the field here, and we saw that secondary, even with how bad Jacksonville was, there's some holes there. I think Cleveland gets it done, but I like the 6.5 right now in the first half. I'm not touching those double digits.
Yeah, 48 would be interesting there to see where that line closes at, Dave, and also obviously a big favorite double digits. One of those things where most people say, double digits. My dad will always tell me, too many points in the NFL, more than double digits. Doesn't matter who the football team is. Well, that line is there for a reason, the way they set it up. So later in the week, I might be looking towards maybe a Cleveland Browns team total over, simply because they can do it all. They can pass, they can run, they can get after the passer. But Tyrod Taylor showed up and showed out week 1 here, Dave. Looking at this, again, from a sportsbook advantage or from a sportsbook, being behind the counter, do people want to jump on Houston after what they saw? Are we still getting like, hey, man, that's a good football team, and they're getting double digits?
No, absolutely not. No one's looking. No one's coming to the counter going, give me Houston.
Give me them.
No, but you know what this line does? This keeps them off Cleveland, too. Like,
Right.
you got to get that number where, like, you put it on pause, and it's just not an automatic. And you had to be this number. You had to be double digits. I think, the initial market's spoken. It's moving up. It's going up. The only thing this place stops is 14. I mean, it could get to close 13.5. So it's one of those games that does the least amount of handle when you look at the board. These double-digit spreads, I mean, that's the unknown little secret. But, like, you're sitting in the book, and you're like, is anybody betting this game? It's usually a teaser special, money line special, and just let it go. And that's probably what I'm going to do right now. Just let it go.
K-Dub, we believe in a Tyrod Taylor for week 2, double digits at home. Is this one of the games that obviously we know the Browns have to win? You can't go 0-2 in the season. They're a heavy favorite, but they just figure they roll their helmets out and put them away. It doesn't matter what the final score is. What are you thinking here?
I think it's kind of what I call an ear to the ground game. Like, I have one buddy who I always will try and text before an NFL Sunday, not to be rude, but I know he's on all the public sides, right? So if he's like, I love Texans, they're covering, they're a good team, the Browns will win by a bazillion. If he's like, Cleveland's going to beat him by a bazillion, close game. But Dave said to me the key thing, this is the teaser game, right? 6-point teaser, they just got to win by a touchdown. And then they win by 4 for some nonsense Brandon Cooks 80-yard touchdown. I'll tell you this, and I've been making this point, the Texans might be over machines. If Tyrod is competent, that defense is horrific. Still, I know they got 3 picks off Trevor Lawrence, rookie quarterback, first ever start. That 48 jumps out. It wouldn't surprise me if that starts to tick up a little bit.
All right, over 350 people now watching live in the chat box. Thank you guys for all the support out here as we keep moving down on our opening lines NFL show, Cincinnati and Chicago. Joe Burrow versus Andy Dalton. And sure, we're going to be hearing the cat calls here for Justin Fields to start. Maybe this is the week. I don't think so here, but how about this one? Favored Cincinnati, right? Opening line here, -3 as a favorite toward the hometown Chicago Bears here, Kyle.
Yeah, now we're finally getting to our first live dog, and I think Cincinnati is certainly a live dog. Their defense didn't look as bad against the Vikings as I expected it to, and what I was really encouraged by is they They didn't tell Joe Burrow. You remember Zach Taylor last year. Joe Burrow set the record for passing attempts by a rookie quarterback per game. He didn't do that yesterday. He went to Joe Mixon. They stuck to the running game. And those weapons were able to get open against a revamped, a little bit older and slower Viking secondary, but they were expected to be better than they were. Now you flip it over here to Chicago. Look, Andy Dalton, early game at home. That's when he succeeds, right? Andy Dalton on primetime. I've told everyone last night it was the easiest bet I've ever had to make. I will never, ever bet Andy Dalton in primetime. He's the worst primetime quarterback in history. It's not even close. But Sunday mornings at home against his old team, Andy Dalton will probably be okay. The problem for me, that Chicago secondary, you saw it last night. This is not your same, the Duke Shelleys and the Artie Burns and the Jalen Johnsons. They're not going to be able to get it done. There's some real talent in that Cincinnati wide receiving room. I think the Bengals here are live dogs, and I have a lean to the over on this. It's at 45. I think both teams can score. These are not two great defenses. This is not the monsters of the Midway. I think the over here is the play, and I think the Cincinnati Bengals are the first live dog on the card.
Dave, another one here that lines up, right? Oh, my God, we watched in prime time. Chicago's such a bad football team. Hey, did you see Cincinnati won the week and they're getting points, Dave?
Yeah. This is the Red Rifle Revenge Tour, right? I mean, he's coming after him. And Kyle, is that red hair? Are you a ginger?
I mean, there's some ginger-ish.
He's losing it a little bit as well.
And said this, the Bengals are favored. No, seriously, the Bengals. This is a pick'em game, but you can't make a game pick'em, in Chicago. So I think Cincinnati, obviously, their ceiling's a little bit higher. The Bears are who we thought they were. I mean, are you surprised by anything you saw? They played the Rams. They looked like crap. The Rams defense is good. It's only a matter of time before Fields gets in there. I thought that when he was in there, they just looked like they had a little more energy. It's not Andy's fault. It's just the kid's ready to play. The coaching staff's waiting. I don't know what they're waiting for. It might be this week. I think that number will move if we get knowledge that Fields is going to get more snaps. That's the only thing that's going to be. It's set on 3. It's going to sit on 3. Nothing's going to move this game off of 3. And I mean, flip a coin right now. I think the Bengals are live. Would it surprise you if the Bears won by 7? No.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one to look to because, your initial thoughts, which is what this show is for, is saying, look, Cincinnati's getting points. It makes sense in this game. Hand the ball off to Joe Mixon. Joe Burrow was sensational, I thought, on opening day. Handled everything well. And also the Cincinnati defense, KW, playing some good football, slowing down, to me, the best overall running back in football.
That's really fascinating because apparently David Montgomery actually has figured out football. Like I thought maybe it was like a 4-week fluke to end last season. He was great last night. Like he was legitimately great for the Chicago Bears. And we talk about too, using just kind of the FanDuel lines right now, the Bears -3 is even money. So if you read the juice, this thing's closer to 2.5 and 3.5. You get this under the field goal. Are the Bears really going to be this bad all year long? And again, I don't think Cincinnati was amazing. Classic Kirk Cousins forgot what time the game started, got his numbers up good enough by the end of the game, and then, of course, couldn't seal the deal in overtime to have all the live bettors happy. That's what Kirk Cousins is built for. He did that to me last year against Dallas, the jabroni. So all in all here, I think this dips below that 2.5. It looks like Bears bettors can be patient, which is pretty surprising to me.
All right, we got about 10 games to go in 20 minutes, so you know what that means. Let's get that cracking out here. The Las Vegas Raiders. Hey, we just talked about the Raiders going up against Pittsburgh here. Another one of those. We'll see what happens because, Dave, as well, we'll get to you in a second. These lines are going to move based on what happens tonight. Kyle, your initial thoughts on this game between Carr and Roethlisberger. I loved what I saw of the Pittsburgh defense, but I didn't love what I saw out of their offense.
Yeah, the Steelers stink. No, I'm totally kidding, Dave. I'm giving you a hard time here.
No, he's not kidding.
Look, we'll have to see. I mean, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. I did have the under in that game, so that made me happy. But, hey, that was a hell of a comeback by Pittsburgh. You got to give it to them. They're getting a lot of heat. A lot of people have been down on them. The offensive line, how's that going to look? They found a way to come back and beat a lot of people's AFC, darling. So I thought it was an impressive win for Pittsburgh. I think they're riding the high here. I'll make this quick. I'm not back. It's going to be very hard for me to back Derek Carr in any situation. I'm not a big Derek Carr guy either. Right now, with it being under a touchdown, I do think the Steelers win by a touchdown. That defense is going to be really, really tough. But again, a lot of questions will be answered about this game by how Las Vegas does tonight against a, similarly tough Baltimore defense.
Yeah, Dave, looking at this game, this has one of those feels where we see the 6s and the 6.5 as the opening number in this one. If the Vegas Raiders win outright with Baltimore, that's probably going to even creep down a little bit lower. But if they stink tonight, get beat by 2 touchdowns, no surprise to me, at least, Dave. Does this number get to at least 7?
This number is the number for the Raiders to win or cover the spread. If they don't, this number's 7 when we wake up in the morning. It might be 7 before the game's even over. You got to put the number on defense if the dog wins. This was always one of my favorite exercises in doing the numbers for the teams that haven't played this week yet. You got to take a position as to what is going to happen. The market is betting the Raiders down, so this number has to be under a touchdown. And if nothing changes, so we'll see how it goes. I'm telling you right now, the Steelers have for years played at the level of their competition. If the Raiders lose, they probably won't cover. It's going to go up, and it'll be one of those games. Just an offensive game. The Raiders, they'll play one of those stupid games, and it'll go over.
All right, 415 people watching live in the chat box. As KW takes the microphone right now here and talks a little Pittsburgh and the Vegas Raiders.
It feels like the kind of game, right, Dave, that like Tomlin has to make sure his team doesn't watch. Because, like, if they watch the Raiders get blown out, then the Raiders are absolutely leading in the fourth quarter of the football game just for no reason. But the total, again, is 1 point lower, but it's the Steelers being substituted for the Ravens. That's interesting.
Right.
Because that Steelers offense still stinks. I have no idea how they won that game, but that's what they did for 10, 11 weeks last season, and then they got exposed. That 49.5, like, what am I missing? Is the Raiders defense just automatically going to give you a total of 49.5, 50.5? That's the thing that jumps out right away to me, Donnie.
No, it's certainly interesting stuff here. How about this AFC East tilt here? Buffalo, Miami. Miami goes up because picks up a victory against the New England Patriots in their own building, happily getting a fumble late, which probably would have sent the Miami Dolphins into the loss column. The Buffalo Bills drop one to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and here we are. I think this line feels about right here. Buffalo basically 3 across the board, some 3.5s as well. 48.5. Excuse me. Let me just get this updated line. Yes, 48.5 across the board at these outlets. Kyle, looking at this game here, I do think Buffalo bounces back, but I didn't like the offensive performance. But then again, the Steelers got a kick-ass defense.
Yeah, and look, so does Miami. Miami's a good defense, so is Buffalo. This is one where I'm like, I thought this total would be closer to 44 or 45. I'm like, 48? These are 2 good defenses here. I wasn't overly impressed with Buffalo. Obviously, Miami's offense didn't look great. Look, we saw these 2 teams play at the end of last year in a really important game, especially for Miami. And Buffalo absolutely beat the brakes off of Miami here. It's a tough matchup for that Miami offense. They're going to have a hard time getting the ball to their playmakers with that Buffalo secondary. Still lean Buffalo here. I'm not huge on taking, road favorites. But I certainly trust Buffalo and their ability to bounce back more than I do trust Tua and that Dolphins offense. So I lean Buffalo here, but I really like that under. I think that's 3 or 4 points too high.
It's interesting here, Dave. I love the fact that we have you on overreaction week here because it's another one. Well, Miami got lucky to win, and no way the Bills lose 2 in a row, Dave. This so sad. -3. Sign me up.
That's it. That's why this line is 3. I think this line should be closer to pick 2. Miami's a hard place to play in September with the heat, everything else. I'm surprised by the number, but I'm not. They're going to bet Buffalo. I'm with Kyle. I think its total is way too high, and it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Yeah, it should be a fun one to watch. Look, I got Buffalo tickets in my pocket. I got Josh Allen for MVP. I need a big performance, KW, out of this football team. 48 in division. Buffalo gets it right. They should have more opportunity to move the football. But again, Dolphins don't have that's not a slouch on defense. Good football team.
They absolutely are. I think what you're seeing, though, right, is a total that represents last year's Buffalo's offense as opposed to what they did week 1. And last year's Buffalo offense definitely justifies this total. The one thing I'll say is, you guys talk, and it's a great point about those overreactions, is like the Jets lose, and it's like, yeah, they stink. I don't want to bet them. When a team like Buffalo loses, I feel like people want to bet them. There's no way the team that went to the conference championship goes 0-2. And I think that's why you're seeing that strong 3 road number.
Oh, big movement here. Stafford coming to town for the Rams to go up against the Indianapolis Colts, who it looks like Carson Wentz, same story from Philadelphia. I don't know. Maybe it's just him. He holds on the ball a little bit too long, gets his brains beat in, but does put up some decent statistics yesterday. Hopefully they will get healthy on defense, particularly at the cornerback position, because you're going to need it going up against Matthew Stafford. Kyle, we'll start with you first here. 47.5 across the board. We saw FanDuel open up at 2.5. That's quickly moved to 4 and probably on the rise. Maybe a sneaky home dog, but we saw that last week here. Seattle came in and beat them up pretty good. What are you thinking this week quickly?
It seems too easy, right? It feels like this could be a trap, a big-time trap, right? And we've seen Sean McVay sort of lay an egg in these situations where he's supposed to get it done here. Still, if Xavier Rhodes remains out, we saw that Colts secondary just wasn't prepared for what Seattle had to offer. This is not an easy receiving core they're going to face again next week. The Rams did not run the football well, but that defense can really overwhelm you. Without T.Y. Hilton, you're sort of devoid of weapons on the outside. Zach Pascal, a couple of touchdowns. I lean Rams earlier in the week, but this has trap written all over it.
Dave, 47.5 here. Look, the Rams did everything you would want. You figure Frank Wright's going to come up with a game plan, back-to-back home games. You don't want to start 0-2, but boy, you want to talk about the toughest matchup of the week, maybe getting the Rams coming off that performance here.
I wouldn't want to play the Rams defense now, especially, new quarterback. The game was 2.5 with Seattle at the Colts, and now, a division foe in the Rams, and it's 4.5. I think this number is a better number. That first number was a gift with Seattle. I like the Rams. I like the Rams a lot. I like the defense even more. The game feels like another one of those favorite on the road and unders to me.
Yeah, it's a crazy one here because I'm sitting on that 8.5 ticket, which, again, if they lost their first 2 games, I still think they can get to those 9 wins. But you want to buoy yourself over the first couple weeks of the season. A tough schedule for the Colts here, Kevin. Open up 47.5 here, sitting at that number, 4s across the board. It feels about right, but, overreaction. Maybe the Colts bounce back here, keep it close, possibly win. What do you think?
I think if the Colts beat Seattle, this game is like pick. Because, again, the Colts were favored against Seattle on the look-ahead lines. Now, I know they didn't beat them. I know they did not.
Yeah.
I also hate the fact that if I do a 6-point teaser, I can get the Colts plus 10. I know the score is going to be 21-10. I know Wentz is going to throw a pick to end the game, and I know they're going to lose by 11. The game, it's a perfect number, right? Like some of these numbers are like, ooh, that's where the value is. It's a tremendous number. I think I take the Colts, but I'll probably go like 0-17 on Colts ATS numbers this year.
There you go. That's the way to do it. San Francisco and Philadelphia here. Maybe a preview of the NFC Championship game. You like that? Yeah.
Oh,
We get fired up. Opening line, 3.5, stays 3.5 across the board. Total here, 47.5. Some outlets here at PointsBet New Jersey showing a 50 right now. You lose a starting quarterback for San Francisco, lose your starting running back. It seems like every year the Niners are bitten by the injury bug, but typically the Eagles are, but seemingly coming in healthy. Another game here on the road for the 49ers, but they're favored here, Kyle, early to start the week.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if they didn't fall apart in the fourth quarter, would this line be a little bigger? And, of course, if Matt Ryan wasn't – Matt Ryan's the most washed-up player in the league, right? He's absolutely god-awful.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to take away from what happened last week. I do have some questions now about that 49er defense. Losing their best corner, Jason Verrett, is a big loss. And, of course, they lose their number 1 running back in Raheem Mostert. Their number 2 running back, Jeff Wilson Jr., he won't be back until week 8. So now we're relying on guys like Eli Mitchell. I liked how the 49ers offense looked. I liked how the Eagles looked. This one is, of all the games, this one was probably the toughest for me. I lean my 49ers because no way when mine and Donnie's favorite team are playing that I'm going to take his damn team. That can just get the hell right out of here with that. My 49ers are coming out here, and they're going to beat Philly like a stepchild this week. Let's get it done.
Yeah, just like last year as well. How about that, Dave?
How dare you? How dare you?
Nick
Dave,
Mullins?
checking in on this one. Yeah, 2 teams that won last week. I think the line is about right here. It'll be interesting to see from your perspective, 3.5. Where is this line closer to closing at? The 3 or the 4 number for you, Dave?
Bad guys are kind of coming. They're going to take the points. I can't see how they – This is one of those things that when a team wins a road game and comes home and gets points – this is an old school thing that goes back years. It only pops every maybe 6 to 8 times a year, and the dog covers 75% of the time. So them plus the points is an easy play for me. Them on the money line is a real possibility for me. I like the total. I think you're going to see points. What did the first game? They went to Detroit and they gave up a bunch of points late. but they scored a bunch of points. I expect a similar game. Those Eagles unis are going to look great. They got weapons, Donnie. I don't want to get too excited, but I know whose show it is. I like the Eagles.
There you go. You do know who it is. Getting close to 500 people now watching live in the chat box. Awesome stuff on a Monday. Having some football here because you guys are tuning in for all the Eagles analysis here. And Kevin's not going to disappoint.
The best team in the NFL is getting 3.5 points at home. I mean, obviously everybody's asleep in the room. I don't know what to say about it. I don't know what they're thinking here. Jalen Hurts over every single prop. Devonta Smith touchdown, Jalen Reagor touchdown, Goddard touchdown, Sanders touchdown, Gainwell.
What the hell is going on here?
Right?
Woo!
I mean, it's
end the show. It's over.
I'll be honest with you. I'm worried about that total of 50. If that Eagles defense is legitimate, there is no way the Niners are okay with the fact that they were having a tremendous defensive effort, and then somebody told them midway through the third quarter that the Lions were going to run the ball the rest of the game there. That 50 could be a little too high.
All right, there we go. Denver and Jacksonville, another overreaction game possibly here. Kyle, quickly on this one. Bridgewater and Lawrence, didn't like what we saw with Jacksonville, loved what I saw with Denver, but are we getting too much of an overreaction? Now a 6-point favorite here on the road to open the week.
Yeah, not in love with the number, obviously. You never want to be holding your back Teddy Bridgewater on the road as a touchdown favorite. But, God, Jacksonville looks lost. Normally you'd say, look, Vic Fangio, that guy, he's probably third or fourth on that low IQ coach list. But luckily for him, Urban Meyer's my new number one. So I got to lean Denver in the week. I do like the under in this one. I don't see how Jacksonville scores here. If you're going to struggle with the Texans defense and turn the ball over, this Denver defense is exponentially better. Tough sledding here for Jacksonville. I think Denver comes into town and beats the brakes off them.
Dave, Jerry Jeudy goes down, so another key wide receiver every year seems to go down for Denver Broncos. A high ankle sprain, not out for the year, but going to be down for at least 4 to 6 weeks at this point. Overreaction on the 6s that we've opened up here at?
I think you have to put 6, but you want to put 7. I mean, seriously, how are you getting Jacksonville money?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way. It's Denver or pass. And speaking of passing, Jacksonville doesn't look like they're going to complete a pass. I mean, under looks way too easy. What is this total? 45? Come on, this got to be under.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like 43.5 showing at DraftKings too. 45.5 at the rest of the outlets over here. Bridgewater and Lawrence didn't like what we saw Jacksonville game 1 here, Kevin. Is this just a simple fact as new coach, new quarterback, getting their feet wet, now they'll be ready to go? Or is Denver for real and should be able to shut down this football team that has now lost 16 games in a row?
I think when Donnie booked me, he said you had to play the heel. I think the entire chat here is going to be teasing Denver down. Jaguars money line. Teddy Bridgewater on the road, 6-point teaser to a pick. This is ridiculous. Jimmy Underwood said, get this guy off. I mean, what is he talking about here? He means get this guy on. He loves this guy.
That could be fun.
I mean, it's a Kyle Vermine
jokes for that.
No good.
There's jokes for everything. Yeah.
There's no world I'm laying 5.5 with Teddy Bridgewater on the road. The Jaguars are probably going to be an Achilles heel for me all year long. That's just probably going to be how it goes.
It is going to be an interesting game because it does look a little bit high, but then again, you say, well, what made you watch Jacksonville and say they're really going to compete in this football game? New England Patriots and the New York Jets. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, I've only got through 2 full games yesterday on Rewind. The Jets were absolutely horrendously horrific in their opening game. Don't look at the final score. Watch the first 3 quarters when it mattered. They were abysmal on offense. And I don't know if it gets any better. New England's going to be ready for this football game. Drop the game at home. They should have won. And now you're seeing the 4.5 turn into the 5.5 here quickly, Kyle, in this game between the Pats and the Jets opening number.
Yeah, the damn universe is making me take way too many touchdown favorites on the road here. But how could you possibly back the Jets? I mean, they might not win a game this year. I got to go Patriots here. I'll make it short and sweet. You just don't want to be holding the bag. The way that Jets team looked, it's going to be a long, long season for Jets fans.
Holding the bag here, 510 people watching live here, waiting for Dave Sharapan to tell people why this line is crazy between New England and the New York Jets.
I like to call the bad guys the guys that come into the books with bags of money and bet the dogs like the Jets. Yeah. I don't even think they're coming in to bet the bad guys on the Jets. They're not bringing no bags. What Belichick does to rookie quarterbacks, we're going to hear about it all week. This line's going to continue to go up. I think it might touch 7. They might be interested then, but not until then. Patriots or nothing.
Yeah, I liked it. I actually, for early in the week, I'm not really looking toward the Jets because they didn't show me anything in that last football game. I loved, Kevin, what Mac Jones looked like in that game. He deserved to win that game. Didn't get a win, so maybe you might get a little bit of a depressed line in this one. But the only way for me looking is New England in this one, even though they're on the road with a rookie quarterback.
I feel like when New England wins, though, they win big, right? When they can control a team, they blast them, they run them out of the building. You're sat there, it's the third quarter, they're up 31-3. But I also think that 42.5 is going to be a little tempting to the over. See, I can only have so much like calmness in my head for so long. Like I liked Pat's Dolphins under. It was a dead under. So of course I'll mess it up and come back the next week and bet a Patriots game over.
And by the way, the Bagmen coming out in this one, I would assume here shortly, Minnesota and Arizona. Arizona, they're going to win the Super Bowl. Only laying 3.5. Kyle, take a look at this. Kirk Cousins going on the road. What do you think?
Yeah, no thanks, right? And we just went through this. And look, that wasn't a fumble. It was complete nonsense. And
It wasn't.
the universe just couldn't give me the push.
Yep.
I don't know why the hell we
Yep.
have replay if these idiots
Yeah.
can't get it right. But it is what it is here. But look, what I really like here is I'm looking at that total of 51. I think this goes over. These are two defenses who can absolutely be had. Tennessee just looked a little rusty. I don't necessarily – Chandler Jones, obviously 5 sacks, just absolutely insane. You're not going to keep seeing things like that. Both offenses can score. I like Arizona at home. There's no way in hell I'm taking Kirk Cousins on the road against a winning team. I don't think I need to tell anyone his record against winning teams. It's pure, unadulterated dog shit. Kirk Cousins is terrible.
Right.
Give me Arizona -4, but I really like the over 51.
Yeah, the over is certainly obviously one of those games where I think a lot of people pinpointed that Titans game versus Arizona for an over. And hey, one team got 38. What are they going to do? Score 70 in that game total? No, it didn't even help because only 13 points out of the Titans. Dave, looking at this game here, not a lot to love about Minnesota. You know, veteran head coach Kirk Cousins puts up big numbers, but is that going to be enough? And also thinking about that line that opened up at FanDuel now sitting at 3.5 and on the move at 4 and 4.5 now at some outlets.
Yeah, I think you're going to get one-way action here. And Kyle summed it up. Who's looking to bet Cousins on the road in Arizona where strange things happen? Probably this guy over here, K-Dub. He might want to take Minnesota because you'd be the only one. There ain't no way. It's Arizona or nothing for me. Yep. Total seems actually surprisingly a little bit light at 51. Why would you want to?
There you go. I don't know. I mean, it looks pretty cut and dry here, K-Double. This, Kyler Murray was just a joystick out there just running around. Nobody could touch him. He's looking for that in week 2 here.
The problem, though, is it's like, oh, the sharp play, Vikings, I'm a genius. But it's like 3.5. Like, it has to get to like 5, 5.5, and then I can be the smart guy, but I'll really be the dumb guy because they're going to get murdered. But, like, I feel like the smart thing to do is take the Vikings. And then you're like, yeah, I was smart and took Kirk Cousins. I'm a buffoon.
I mean, that's what sharp money is, right? Just take the crappiest team on there. If they win, you're the sharpest son of a bitch in the room. That's basically what it is.
There you go.
The Rhombus is coming
anybody?
out to play here for us.
That's
CL, that matters. I'd like to cash those tickets here on this one. Let's take a look here. Atlanta and Tampa Bay. You want to talk about a big overreaction here. FanDuel opened up at 8.5 and said, whoa, buddy, we're up to 12.5 across the board and 52. I don't know who would be sinking their teeth into Atlanta for this week. And also keep in mind, Tampa played opening night and won, now had an extra 4 days of rest, Kyle.
Yeah, and that total looks high. Look, a lot of people, I've done this for years. Atlanta, Tampa Bay, bad defenses, good offenses. This is going to the over. That's not how these games typically turn out. And nothing inspired me about, first of all, I wasn't inspired by the Buccaneers defense, obviously, against the Cowboys offense. I thought they could overwhelm a little bit up front. But they should certainly be able to do that to Atlanta here. I'm not trusting an over with Matt Ryan at quarterback. I don't know if this guy can throw the ball 10 yards down the field accurately anymore. He looks lost in the pocket. If Tampa Bay, if that defense is angry, able to put pressure on him, it's going to be hard for Atlanta to score. Of course, I'm not touching the double-digit. This is either a teaser spot, money line parlay, first half bet possibly. But I kind of like the under here. I could see like a 35-10 type game here where Tampa Bay really beats the brakes off them. I just don't think you see the offensive running mate in Atlanta to touch that over.
This will be one where I have called those overreactions. Is Atlanta really bad? Or they correct it? And also, I know a lot of people stick to that same moniker, Dave. Double digits in the division. Sign me up all day for the plus money. I don't care who's playing.
They do, and there's people who are going to take Atlanta, and they're probably going to be sorry they did. This is a team that's looking to be one of the worst in football. I mean, they got a lot of things to work out, and I just don't see it. But I don't know what to take from Tampa in that game against Dallas, Donnie. I mean, other than they're another year older. They're probably going to win games, and the number's going to be out of control. It was 9 against Dallas. It's 13 against Tampa. It should be 14. So divisional game. Watch for people, the sharp guys, the rhombuses and the parallelograms. They'll be all over Atlanta. Good luck.
Kev, sign you up for Atlanta here?
I mean, I guess someone has to, right? Like I always say, someone has to do it on those like Sunday night crews, though. Like, well, I don't know, like why Mike Tirico won't jump on a grenade for like Tony Dungy, not one weekend. Like just once, just be like, all right, I'll take the Bears. Just like somebody do it for somebody. And I don't like what, like please, like set the Matt Ryan number like he is washed. Because if Atlanta knows anything, they know they can't run the ball. I can't wait for them to hand off to Cordarrelle Patterson 15 times for 28 yards. I'm like, I don't know why this didn't work. Matt Ryan has to throw for 350.
Yeah, he's going to have to throw for 350 in this football game to try to keep them around. You know, in the division, that is a lot of points here. But let's go up to Seattle here quickly. Got 4 games to go. We'll rapid fire these off. Tennessee and Seattle, Tannehill and Wilson. Tennessee had one of the worst weeks you could ever think of coming out of opening day in a big game, which I thought they could actually win. Seattle Seahawks here coming in hot after beating Indianapolis. The return of the 12th man here, Kyle.
Yeah, and that's the scary part, right? Like, a big part of me is like, hey, Tennessee, bad week 1. They're going to be undervalued. This is a talented offense who can score on anybody. But it's tough to play in Seattle, and they have fans back for the first time. That place is going to be loud. I will say, of all the road underdogs, I do think Tennessee is the better of all of those teams. I do think they have a shot here, but it's really tough to go against Seattle at home. One thing I don't like, though, I'm probably taking the points here with Tennessee. Russell Wilson plays close games. I know they won by double digits yesterday, but it's very rare for Russell Wilson to cover 6, 6.5, 7-point spreads. So for me, Tennessee too talented to be laying that many points. I'll take Tennessee in the points.
Yeah, I think it's a good bounce back spot. I do. And keep in mind also in that Seattle football game, you know, Indianapolis had 2 4th-and-1s deep in the territory of Seattle and were able to convert those. That might have been a little bit of a different game. But again, credit Seattle. Dave, looking at this football game here, 53.5 at FanDuel, 53.5 offshore. We're expecting points. That is a lot, but also 5.5 here across the board as a side.
I learned one thing from the Tennessee game. Their defense still stinks. They don't stop anybody. They ain't even trying. I mean, if they are, they're not doing a good job of it. 54 seems really high. Watch this thing inch up. It's only going to go up, at least initially. 5.5 is a good number. I think you can make a case for both sides. My initial thought is that, yes, Tennessee should bounce back and keep it close, which means that Seattle's probably going to win by a touchdown.
Yeah, they can't go they can't go 0-2, as we like to say, Tennessee. But then again, Indianapolis is staring straight at 0-2, and they were supposed to be the division leaders down there in the South. Looking at this game, Kevin, Russell Wilson at home, 12th man. It's hard to beat them when they have that full crowd. But this is the one team that could possibly do it. Lean on your offensive line, run the football, and take the crowd out of it.
The Seattle special, again, is this somehow being 22-21? It's like, I didn't even know you could get to that score in the NFL. Yep. Like, they always find a way. But then again, they also, like, haven't halfway through the year decided to ruin Russell Wilson statistically yet. Like, they're like, oh, no, you're the best quarterback in the NFL. Here, go ahead. And then they ruin everything week 8. I think Seattle, oh, I hate this game. Over? Under? What a terrible game.
Yeah, it is an interesting game to line up. And you want to talk about over-unders. How about a 55.5 that we have sitting on the board right now between the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Chargers? Unbelievable, because you saw how hot Dak Prescott was. You have perfect, pristine conditions in a dome. And no question in my mind, the Chargers will be able to move the football as well. Kyle, looking at this game very quickly here, what do you got?
Yeah, and I mean, that number might go up throughout the week, right? Like, pretty much you're going to start seeing Dallas, and you're just going to smash the over. They can't stop anybody. That defense is atrocious. And they have way too many weapons. Now that we know Dak Prescott is not done and he came back red hot, I expect a lot of points in this game. Am I comfortable enough to pick a side here? Probably not, but I think this is going to be a lot of fun. You're going to see this on the Red Zone channel. If you're watching Red Zone, you're going to see a ton of Dallas and the Chargers. I think there's a lot of points in this game. Even though it's a huge number of 55, I'm still inclined to take the over.
Dave, when is enough for the bagman to come in and say, hold on, 55.5 showing up at FanDuel? I just have to take out of principle the under at this point.
It's coming. I mean, I would be in the room saying, what's the total Sharapan on Dallas and the Chargers? 100. Just make it 100. Who in the hell is going to bet under this game? Only those guys. No one is going to do it. The other thing I took away is that Dallas isn't even going to try to run the ball. They couldn't run the ball against Tampa. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball against the Chargers. This is going to be – the NFL decided, let's put 3 games in the afternoon time slot, all 3 highest totals. I think we'll be all watching the scoring going on and it'll be a fantasy dream nightmare. Side for me, I'm leaning Chargers. I don't believe anything that I saw with the Cowboys.
MVP Dak Prescott, Kevin Walsh started up right now.
Dang.
Well, I mean, look, he's going to have to because that defense still absolutely stinks. However, like, first of all, I love Jimmy Underwood. He kicked me out. He's teased every game, like 10-point teasers, 13-point teasers. I think Dallas is my favorite teaser spot of the week, though. Like, just don't get blown out here is kind of my thought process on the Cowboys. I think I'd take them plus the 2.5 as well. Again, extra prep time for the Dallas Cowboys there. That way their defense maybe has like a good plan for a quarter until they start to get embarrassed here. Also, the Chargers, right? Still the Chargers organization. They love messing things up when they're going well for them.
New era.
Fantastic.
Can I
stuff
point
here.
out to Jimmy Underwood, we don't
Go
need
ahead.
the finger thing pointing over to read the thing.
I
We
like
can
the
read it.
finger
We
thing.
understand that you typed it. I don't
Look, I
understand.
don't look over
That's
unless the
got to
finger's
be a
pointing
part of
over
his
there.
name.
Yeah, it's just
If
bizarre.
that's not a
Just
part
delete-
of his name, he's the GOAT for typing
Yep.
that out every
Just
time.
delete that. Guys like that know exactly how many days until Christmas. It's freaking weird.
That is
Now I'm
fantastic.
backing
Donnie, will you
Jimmy
ask
Underwood.
Dave and Kevin to give out their Twitter handles? Dave, can you give it out? Because I can't spell it. Go ahead.
Yeah, Sports BK Consigned for Sportsbook Consigliere. So it's Sports at BK and then CONSIG. Thank you, Donnie.
And also at the Kevin Walsh. To see Kevin Walsh's name, just put a THE before that, and you have his Twitter handle right there. What a banger on Sunday Night Football next week. Kansas City and Baltimore, Mahomes and Jackson. This line will change depending on what we see tonight. But how about this? Kansas City on the road, a favorite. Another notorious tough place to play in Baltimore. Kyle, quickly on this.
Yeah, and again, what happens tonight is going to decide how this ultimately looks at the end here. So it's tough to say, and we don't know what kind of injuries. Does Lamar Jackson get hurt? Something weird happen? But right now, a team like Baltimore with their pedigree as a home underdog, sign me up. I'll take the points. I'll take the home dog, and I'll take Baltimore.
Dave, road favorite here heading into Baltimore, warranted, because who the hell wants to bet against Kansas City? I don't. Well, I just did on Sunday, so I do.
Nobody will. If the Ravens lose tonight, this will move. I mean, this is the number what it is if the Ravens lose tonight. So, because that's what the market is telling us. I think if the Ravens lose tonight, it's not a 1-unit play. It's a 2-unit play on the Ravens. I don't like them. I love them if they lose. Telling you guys that right now. Do I think they're going to lose tonight? No. I still like them next week, plus the points at home. Close game, they can win. Give me 3 with a dog that can win the game at home. Home opener, easy.
What do you think, K-Dub? Mahomes goes on the road. Flick of the wrist by Patrick Mahomes. They got 40 points on the board. Lamar Jackson trying to chase him down in the passing game?
Mike Tirico, watch and learn. You think I'm going to let a full panel bet against the Chiefs? Not now, not ever. Remember last year, Monday Night Football, Ravens favored? Ravens. And Mahomes just walk around, 4 people better than me in the NFL. He was wildly insulted. No. And this is the thing. I lost with the Chiefs this week. I thought Donnie was insane for teasing him. Didn't even need the teaser on the Browns. So what? Good for them. I'll still bet the Chiefs. I'll do it 17 weeks. I don't care. Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid.
All right, last one we'll talk about tonight, Detroit and Green Bay. My goodness here. Green Bay scored 3 points, and they're laying double digits once again in the division to the Detroit Lions, Kyle. I mean, this isn't as we like to say, as exciting as it gets, but yeesh, Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, you do expect Aaron Rodgers to bounce back, right? And this is it won't shock me if Green Bay's a little undervalued here, right? After what you saw last week, it was pretty dreadful. And of course, Detroit made that huge run. So everyone's, maybe Detroit can get this done here. I do not like double-digit spreads. Lambeau Field, Monday night, after what happened to them this week. I'm inclined to lean this 11 points, this 10.5 with Green Bay. It makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. Most likely I'll do a first half bet, take it under a touchdown and call it a day, or make this a teaser spot and get it underneath there. But I'm telling you, I know what we saw yesterday, and this is probably going to be the biggest overreaction of the weekend. Green Bay looked awful. They're going to bounce back and beat Detroit at Lambeau Field.
Yeah, they should be able to do that also. And keep in mind, if a couple wacky plays don't happen, we're looking at Detroit going, that was an embarrassing performance.
Right.
But since the score was 41-33, Dave, not so embarrassing here. But 48 in the division. And again, another double-digit number.
Another double-digit number. It's Detroit. They came back. Blah, 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 blah. Green Bay's going to kill Detroit, or Detroit's going to win the game. I don't think you're going to wear it. This is the only double-digit one that I don't think is going to matter. You see, it's one of those two things are happening. Detroit's going to upset them. Everything's going to blow up in Green Bay, or Green Bay's going to annihilate them by 20-plus points. You could do an alternate spread total. And if you like laying 11, you'll really like laying 17+ and taking plus money. Green Bay blowout.
I'll tell you, Kev, looking at this game, or looking at the game at least for the Green Bay Packers on Sunday, looked like Aaron Rodgers was an extra in The Revenant. I mean, I don't know what type of look he's got going on here, or if he even cares about football. What are you looking at, Kev, with this opening number?
All right, I've taken enough bullets. I love the Packers. I refuse to come on a Donnie RightSide show and not say a team total. What's the Packers team total? It's not high enough. That's what it is. 28.5, 29.5. Aaron Rodgers over touchdown passes, Devonta to score, same game parlays, the whole thing. If they don't score 35, then Rodgers is broken and will host Jeopardy by week 7.
There we go. Maybe I should be hosting Jeopardy at this point now, because we had a record numbers here on the show today. Awesome stuff. Over 550 people at one point watching in the chat box. Credit to you guys for coming in here and having some fun, and also to the massive panel that we assembled today. Also, keep in mind we do this once again on Thursday, where we have our key show and we put those plays in order here. Kelsey Kramer also joined us for a Pick 6 NFL contest update as well. But it's a Monday. We got football on tonight. An awesome show. Thank you so much. I'm Donnie RightSide along with Kyle Purviance, Dave Sharapan, and Kevin Walsh. This was your SportsBookReview.com opening line show. And as always, good luck with those wagers.